Joining us now, NBC's Monica Alba from Washington, D.C. Eugene Robinson is an MSNBC political analyst. Kristen Givens-Fedden, former prosecutor, civil rights attorney, and MSNBC legal analyst. And MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin. Kristen, this meeting, have you ever heard of the two top people at Justice, not to mention the FBI director, getting together with political leaders from the White House to, if reporting is correct, talk strategy?
No, there are two separate branches. They should be operating independent of one another. And, you make a good point. The reason that we don't see this is because what it is clearly showing is a devastating breakdown in the trust between survivors and the justice system. And I think one of the victims actually in her letter called it political warfare. And again, that's why we don't see these private meetings, because the system should not be out to protect or to push forward some type of political agenda. It should be looking at the survivors and seeking justice in all forms.
So by all reports, Monica, one of the key questions for the meeting will be the release of Todd Blanche's interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, as we mentioned. What more do we know about the thinking there?
Well, we know that this is an option that's under consideration, according to a source familiar with the matter. We're told that those transcripts, remember, it was about 9 hours of conversation over 2 days in late July, that it's possible those transcripts could ultimately be released and made public. If that were to happen, it could happen in the coming days, perhaps as early as the end of this week, we're told by this source. But it's also, of course, coming at a time, Chris, where there are questions about anything else that is added to this, just maybe keeps the conversation going on Jeffrey Epstein at a moment where the White House is trying to evaluate how much oxygen they want to contribute to that conversation, though it's not like they're not getting those questions. Just yesterday, the president was asked if he was aware of the fact that they were going to be moving Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's convicted co-conspirator, to a less secure prison camp, in effect, and he said he didn't know anything about that. But he also, in that same answer about Ghislaine Maxwell, more generally talked about his deputy attorney general, talked about Todd Blanche, and the fact that if he did have these conversations and that if there were more to share about that he said that that would be appropriate. So the president is weighing in and saying, and in effect deferring to his deputy attorney general and saying that he can make that decision. So this is an area where they may ultimately decide to do that. Maybe they decide to do some of it. It's unclear, but it comes as the president's own supporters, we know, are the ones who are clamoring for more information. So that could be a way to do that, though again, a final decision on that front does not appear to have been made yet. Chris.
So, Eugene, if the Trump administration does release the transcripts of the DOJ's interview with Maxwell, which our reporting indicates does not reveal any wrongdoing by the president, is there any sense that it could satisfy the calls for transparency, or does it just risk raising even more questions?
Oh, absolutely. It only raises more questions. Number one, there will be a question of whether all the transcripts have been completely released without redactions. Every minute of the conversation, has it been released or not? And if the answer is not, or if there are suspicions that something is being held back, again, that feeds the conspiracy theories. That feeds the idea that something's being hidden. Second, I think a lot of people would not be surprised if Ghislaine Maxwell, who is seeking better treatment in prison, which she's already received, who is seeking a release, who's trying to get off the hook, perhaps with a pardon from President Trump. I don't think anyone would be surprised if she told the president's emissary that, oh, no, there's no problem with Donald Trump. Now, there may be no problem with Donald Trump. He may not have done anything wrong, but who's going to believe Ghislaine Maxwell given her circumstances? So this doesn't end anything. It just fuels the Epstein story that won't go away.
And Lisa, I think it's just in the last hour the Giuffre family put out a statement, and they want to know whether or not what happened to the victims is going to be taken into account. Mm-hmm. Two lawyers who represent other Epstein victims are accusing the DOJ of violating the Crime Victims' Rights Act. Mm-hmm. What's the concern?
The concern is sort of twofold. One, as the Giuffre family has pointed out, if these folks are going to get together and talk about which documents should be released, Why is a victim's representative not at the table? Their statement today says not only should the administration take the victims' feelings and experiences into account, but they need to bring the victims' voices effectively into the room where it happens. With respect to the Crime Victims' Rights Act, you and I have talked about this before. That is a law that requires the Department of Justice to notify known victims when certain court proceedings are taking place. The government represented in its filings in the motion to unseal grand jury testimony that it had notified those victims who were mentioned in the grand jury transcripts, but far from all known victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, who by the DOJ's own account number over 1,000. So that lawyer that you were referring to, Brad Edwards, said in a letter to the court, we need to change this process before you even decide whether or not to release these transcripts. Force them to notify everyone who is affected here. Give those folks time to have their voices heard by you. And to the extent that you're going to release the information, allow victims' lawyers into that process so that they can review the redactions proposed by the government, because there isn't trust there that the government knows how to sufficiently protect the information, identifying details, names of the victims here.
So, Kristen, the letter from the lawyer of those multiple victims argues that they've already endured violations of their rights and dignity, writing this about the potential release of the transcripts. To now compound their trauma by sidelining them from critical decisions, especially in this climate of heightened concern, is inconsistent with both the letter and the spirit of CVRA. You've represented sexual abuse victims. How much weight do you think a judge generally does give to victims' needs, requests, versus other considerations in making a ruling like this?
I think it depends on the judge, but to answer your question, they should give a lot of weight, right? Because when you're talking about the justice system, particularly the criminal justice system, you're supposed to represent the entirety of the community. That includes the defendant, but it also includes the survivors. And I think in this particular case, it's important to note that the survivors aren't opposing the release of these records. They're asking for respect. These letters show grief, they show betrayal, they show fear, all wrapped in a demand for basic human dignity. They're not saying don't release the files, they're saying don't release us with them. They're just asking for that private dignity. They're asking for, as Lisa pointed out, some type of notification to all of the victims, but also maybe a third party arbitrator, a neutral person who can go through the files and then maybe potentially re-notify individuals who weren't notified initially or were notified without full notification under the CVRA. So they're just demanding transparency, but not really at the cost of their safety or sanity or re-victimization. And I think that's really important to note. And the judge should weigh that heavily.
And then, Eugene, there's this other part of it that Monica brought up. President Trump was confronted about Ghislaine Maxwell's transfer to the lowest security facility, a prison camp. And he gave an answer that was very similar. We've been hearing from him more and more. And you're going to hear it in these two clips.
Were you aware of and did you personally approve the prison transfer for Ghislaine Maxwell that your Justice Department?
I didn't know about it at all. No, I read about it just like you did.
Do you support the Justice Department seeking a new interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, and did you urge the Attorney General to seek one?
I don't know anything about it. They're going to what? Meet her?
Your Deputy Attorney General is reached out to Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney asking for a new interview.
Yeah, I don't know about it, but I think it's something that sounds appropriate to do.
He didn't know he wasn't involved. Do you hear that as a political statement, a legal statement, or just I'm not keeping up on the details statement? How do you hear that? Because we have heard it repeatedly now in the course of this ever-expanding controversy.
Well, I don't believe it. I mean, I don't think anybody believes that. Look. Here we have, if the reporting is correct, there's going to be a meeting tonight between the vice president and the top law enforcement officials to discuss the political reaction to this criminal matter. And so are we to believe that J.D. Vance is doing this without letting Donald Trump know? It's just implausible, and I would say impossible that he is not aware of this response, given the fact that we know his name is in the Epstein files. Again, we don't know that he was guilty of any wrongdoing, but given that photograph that keeps getting flashed all the time of the president and Melania Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, that photograph. Given that, does anyone believe Donald Trump is unaware of how his administration is seeking to contain the story and responding to the story? I don't believe it.